And that, my friends, is the difference between a championship caliber team and a team battling for a play-in spot in the Western Conference. The Sacramento Kings did so many things right for 41 minutes. Then when it came to closing time, well, the OKC Thunder switched it into championship gear, and the Kings never stood a chance. We'll break down this Kings loss to the Thunder right here on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all season long. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off of your first purchase. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor and reporter for ABC 10 News, and I wanted this game so bad for Doug Christie. Not just because the Kings had a really good shot at handing the defending champion Oklahoma City Thunder their first loss. Not because this game was super winnable. It was right there for Sacramento, but this was the perfect game if the Kings had been able to close it out and get the victory. This was the perfect game for Doug Christie to tuck into his back pocket and reference throughout the season in every practice and every film study, any bump in the road that the Sacramento Kings face. He could pull out this game and say, see, this is what you're capable of doing. I know that you can do it. This is what a complete performance from this team looks like. Now give this to me on a nightly basis. And there's still so much from this game that I could point to and that Doug Christie should keep to reference in a positive way. Kings lose 107-101. I'm going to acknowledge the good first, and I'm not trying to sell you on any moral victory or anything like that. There is good to acknowledge from this game. It was the best game so far in 4 games, so small sample size, but absolutely 100% the best game that the Sacramento Kings as a team have played this season. 100%. Kings play like this against the Lakers a couple nights ago, they win probably by double digits. Kings play like this against the Utah Jazz, they definitely win by double digits. Kings play like this in the second half of the Kings-Suns game, they win by double digits. You get my point. The Kings are capable of playing a high level of basketball and doing so consistently throughout the ebbs and flows and quarters and minutes of an NBA game. They showed it to us. And I don't think anybody who's watched the Kings for a while is surprised that the best the Kings have looked happened to be against the best team in the league, the defending champion Oklahoma City Thunder. We know the Kings have a tendency to play to the level of their competition. But Doug Christie's game plan was superb. Doug Christie put together a fantastic game plan against this Thunder team. They're on the second night of a back-to-back, no Chet Holmgren, no Jalen Williams. And the Sacramento Kings implemented a 2-3 zone. Doug Christie adjusted his starting lineup, moving Russell Westbrook into the starting lineup. We'll talk about that more later on in the podcast. But Doug implemented things that worked. And the Sacramento Kings not only punched first to start this game, which is what Doug Christie is all about. He wants the Kings to punch first. They got back up off the mat a couple of times until the fourth quarter when the Thunder punched back and crawled back into it and put together a run to close that double-digit lead that the Kings had or threatened to take the lead themselves. The Sacramento Kings answered every single time. It was an excellent game plan that the Kings bought into. The players executed it. They were implementing a 2-3 zone really, really well. There were some breakdowns at times, but they were communicating well, rotating well when the Thunder were trying to force their way into the paint to try and break down that 2-3 zone. The Thunder were taking a lot of the threes that the 2-3 zone gives up, but the Sacramento Kings didn't stand there with their hands at their sides and let the Thunder shoot those threes. There was a concerted effort from everybody to close out, put their hand up, try and contest shots as much as possible. And it worked for 41 minutes. We all knew that OKC was going to give Sacramento their best shot at the end. We knew it. I tweeted it out after the third quarter. This game is very winnable. The Kings were winning the fight, and I didn't think it was particularly close. Sacramento had control of that game, but the best of the Thunder is coming, and you have to be ready for it. And the Kings weren't ready for it. Zach LaVine hit a three to put the Kings up 97-90 with 6 minutes and 37 seconds remaining. From that point on, the Thunder end the game on a 17-4 run where the Kings made 1 of 10 field goal attempts, and they also turned the ball over 2 times at the end of that game. Both those turnovers were costly turnovers by Domantas Sabonis. And we'll talk about Sabonis too later in the podcast because I know Kings fans are pissed at him. But what we saw was this Thunder team clamp up. It's winning time. We're not only going to hit some big shots. Of course, SGA hit a big three and the Thunder hit some big shots. The Kings were generating stops. The Kings were getting enough stops to win this game if their offense was up to the level that we would expect. But the Thunder, and a guy named Alex Caruso in particular, put the clamps on the Sacramento Kings through the final 6 and some odd minutes of this game to close this game out. That's why this team wins titles. Because when it mattered most, they locked in on the defensive end. And they also beat the Sacramento Kings on a couple of hustle plays. It's all it takes. All it takes to close out this game. It's a blatant and obvious difference. I don't know how much more clear it could be to you. And sorry to bring him up, Mike Brown talked about this a lot over the years that he was here in Sacramento. And before you're rolling your eyes at me, listen to what I'm saying, because Doug Christie's trying to figure out the same thing. It is easy to go from bad to good. It is extremely difficult to go from good to great. The Thunder are showing us what great is, what great takes. And this was as close to a great effort as the Sacramento Kings are maybe capable of putting together. And still, in the final 6 minutes, they completely fell apart because a real champion, a real great team, picked it up. Flipped that switch. Doug Christie is trying to figure out the exact same thing that Mike Brown had been trying to figure out for years. That's why a lot of Doug Christie's decisions, some of Doug Christie's comments after games are very familiar to when Mike was here. Weird. It's almost like it's always been a roster problem before it's been a coaching problem. Some people are mad at Doug. Almost everybody is mad at Domantas Sabonis. We'll talk about him, plus Russell Westbrook being inserted into the starting lineup. I think he's there to stay, at least until Keegan Murray gets back. We'll talk about it here in just a second. This episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there is no better place to get in on the action than on FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of a game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. You can play along on FanDuel while the game is unfolding in front of you. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at an even bigger, more lucrative payout. It keeps every single game fresh and exciting, especially when your team is making that late push, like the Oklahoma City Thunder did tonight against the Kings. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Like I said at the top of the show, Locked On Kings is also brought to you by Game Time. Basketball season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real. Getting tickets can be a total headache between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout. It's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. That's where Game Time comes in. It's the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NBA tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. You can use Game Time to grab seats for any Sacramento Kings or NBA game this season, and it can't be simpler. It only takes minutes for you to secure those great seats, and that's especially helpful when you're getting seats at the last minute. You can even get seats on Game Time while you're driving to the arena. Get them very, very quickly, even like while you're parking your car to walking up to the arena. You can get tickets on Game Time for as good of a deal as you're going to find anywhere else. There are no hidden fees. What you see for your seats is what you pay at checkout from the very first time you select those seats. You can find NBA tickets for under $25 on Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying the NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Game 4 of the Sacramento Kings season, and it's the fourth starting lineup variation for Kings head coach Doug Christie. And this one saw Russell Westbrook against his former team, his OG team, the team that Russ is most known for, the Oklahoma City Thunder. Russ started at the power forward position, and for the second game in a row, was really solid. 16 points, 4 of 8 from three-point range, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. Personally, 8 three-pointers, it's a little too much for me from Russell Westbrook, but he was hitting them early on, especially those corner threes. I don't think it's a coincidence at all that Russell Westbrook is in the starting lineup and the Sacramento Kings punch first. I'm not saying Russ is the reason why the Kings had as good of a start to this game as they did. He fit in well to what the other Kings starters who have been together this entire time were doing and have been doing. But the Kings set the tone. The Kings punched first, and Russell Westbrook is a punch first type of player. So I think one of the advantages that you're going to have to Russell Westbrook being in your starting lineup is how he attacks and the energy that he brings from the opening tip of the game. I personally feel, even when Nick Clifford comes back, and hopefully that's sooner rather than later, I personally feel that Russell Westbrook should be the starting four for the Sacramento Kings until Keegan Murray returns. Who knows how long that's going to be? Hopefully not too much longer, because the Kings could desperately use Keegan Murray right now, of course. And it's even crazy to say Russell Westbrook at the 4. It's an undersized team. They're going to be undersized anyway. I'm not like Dario Saric, unplayable. Couldn't get on the floor tonight. Isaac Jones, not ready for that spot. To me, it's either Russ or Nick Clifford. It's not going to be Keon Ellis for some reason, unless it was against the Lakers. That's a team that you could theoretically get away with it. And Keon had a good game tonight, by the way. We'll talk about him in just a second. But it's got to be Keon, Russ, or Neek. And more often than not, I think Russ would be the right pick for now until Keegan Murray comes back. And then you can, when Keegan Murray comes back, depending upon how the remainder of these games go, then we can have the conversation whether or not Russ should go right back to the bench and Keegan takes that 4 spot and we proceed as normal. Or do the Sacramento Kings consider potentially DeMar DeRozan going to the bench? Because DeMar did get to start, but played a lot with the second unit. And I liked it. I liked it a lot. I thought DeMar DeRozan was good with the second unit. I thought it gives him the opportunity to be kind of the featured scorer on offense, and it worked for the Sacramento Kings, especially in that first half. And then, of course, he's out there with guys like Malik Monk, who had a pretty solid game. He's out there with Keon Ellis, who had a really, really good game, 12 points, 4 of 10 from the field, 2 steals, 1 block in 27 minutes. I see a lot of people on social media going, why wasn't Keon on the floor at the end of this game? Keon did a really, really, really good job when it came to guarding Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and making life as difficult as possible on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander through the majority of this game. I get the point you're trying to make. Why wasn't he on the floor there? Who would you rather have had him out there for? Maybe Russell Westbrook, although the Sacramento Kings were struggling with the physicality of the Thunder down the stretch. He's not going to be in there over DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine because of those are your two closers. And we're going to have a conversation about who is really the closer of this Kings team a little bit later on. So it was either Russell Westbrook, who was having a solid game and is more physical and better on the glass, or Keon Ellis. Hindsight's 2020. Maybe you say, yes, it needs to be Keon in that spot, but I understand Doug going with Russell Westbrook. But let's talk about the Kings' big man. Let's talk about Domantas Sabonis, because I see it. I see it on social media. I don't even have to look at the comment section of this podcast to know it's going to be there in the comment section. Domantas Sabonis is getting destroyed, lit up by Kings fans tonight. 10 points, 5 of 15 from the field, 18 rebounds, 3 assists, 5 turnovers, including the final 2 turnovers in crunch time of this game. Look, the mistakes are undeniable. 5 turnovers can't happen. And this is something that we've seen a lot when the Kings are trying to get the ball to Domas in the paint. Every time Domas gets the ball, whether it's on an offensive rebound or from a pass, he is crashed on by 2 or 3 different bodies, and he tries his pump fakes to get guys in the air, to get a little bit of... It didn't work tonight. Sometimes it works. A lot of the times it doesn't. Domas is also getting clobbered, but it's a physical game at this point, not getting the whistle. Whatever. The mistakes are undeniable. You can't, there was that, the Kings got to stop. Sabonis secured the defensive rebound and decides to dribble the basketball and put the ball on the floor instead of secure it and wait to find his guard, and the ball is ripped out of his hands, and it results in I think Alex Caruso 3 that didn't win the game for the Thunder, but essentially put the game out of reach. Like that, Domas, that can't happen. And he knows it. Kings know it. But look, here's what I want to say to the Sabonis haters or those who are angry at Sabonis. And those of you who have listened to me on Locked On Kings over Sabonis' time here in Sacramento know that I have defended Sabonis more than pretty much anybody. I also lit him up for his horrendous performance in the play-in against Anthony Davis and the Dallas Mavericks last year. I've been very critical of him from that point. But take a breath and understand the circumstance that Sabonis is in and that this Kings team is in. We've been complaining and complaining and complaining about size on this roster. And the only other size that Sabonis had to help him was Keegan Murray, and Keegan's out. He's hurt. There's a reason why Domantas Sabonis had 18 freaking rebounds in this game, because the Kings needed him to do that, because they've been getting killed on the boards every single night. They won the battle of the boards tonight, and Domantas Sabonis was a massive reason for that. I do think the Kings as a team also did a better job of team rebounding. But Sabonis is on an island. He is already, in many people's eyes, an undersized center. He's not a true rim protector, defensive-minded center. We know this. We've talked about this. And if you have that, if that's a problem that you have with his game, not being as traditional of a center in that way, I understand. That's why you'd prefer like a Bam Adebayo. I get it. You think the Kings would be better than that? Sure. I understand. But Domantas Sabonis is quite literally the only playable center on this roster right now. Drew Eubanks not playing well. Maxime Reynaud obviously not ready. We saw that in the Suns game. Hasn't played since. And Dylan Cardwell, I know, has been the apple of some Kings fans' eyes right now because of how hard he plays. Dylan Cardwell is an undrafted two-way player. If Dylan Cardwell is in the game against the defending champions down the stretch, he's getting destroyed. Dylan Cardwell has airballed 2 wide-open corner threes and nearly broken the backboard on a free throw attempt already this season. So it is peak Kings fan, and I get it because I'm with you. We latch on to these hustle energy guys that can do fun things from the dunker spot, who are these unknowns that are underdog stories. I get it. It's why we love Keon Ellis so much. There have been so many guys who have come through Sacramento that have captured the hearts of Kings fans for years. And you know what the Kings have been for years? Bad. I'm not trying to do this to talk bad about Dylan Cardwell, because he's doing his job as a two-way player. But let's not pretend that because Dylan Cardwell is better at blocking shots, that he would have been better in that spot than Domantas Sabonis. Sabonis is alone. There was a play I clipped and I put on Twitter tonight of Sabonis in transition closing out on a three-point shot. And Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder are standing in the paint watching the ball careen off the rim, not boxing out, not doing anything. And a Thunder player, I can't remember who it was, comes flying in for an easy tip dunk, doesn't even get touched. Oh, but we don't rip Keon Ellis to shreds for that. Why? Because he's our fan favorite guy. And he does so many great things on the defensive end. And he hits threes. And again, I'm not doing this to throw shade at Keon Ellis. The point is, this is a team freaking game. Domantas Sabonis is paid a lot of money. And the expectations, when you're paid that much money, go up tremendously. I'm not denying that at all. Listen to me or look at me very closely when I say this. Domantas Sabonis is not living up to the contract the Sacramento Kings gave him. That is undeniable. But making Domantas Sabonis the lightning rod of your angst and frustration after a loss like this, when Domantas Sabonis was one of the reasons why the Sacramento Kings were even in this game, when Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan missed most of those field goal attempts down the stretch, when Russell Westbrook airballed a three down the stretch. But let's just all blame Domantas Sabonis about it because for some reason we feel like he's taking our money, not Vivek Ranadives. We can be critical of Domantas Sabonis. I'll do it plenty of times here on Locked On Kings. But y'all make it so obvious when you just want to throw all your venom and hatred at one guy. And it's a consistent pattern here in Sacramento. You consistently throw your venom and hatred out of either the highest paid or the longest tenured king. You did it with Fox. You did it with Barnes. We can even go back to when Peja Stojakovic was at the end of his run here in Sacramento. Y'all did it to him too. Fans are going to fan. I don't blame you. Do what you want to do. But man, I'm a step in front of the guy a little bit, because he is doing what quite literally nobody else on this roster can do. Again, it's a roster issue. If we want to have a conversation about can you win with Domantas Sabonis as your starting center, great. Can you win a title with Sabonis? Great. Is Sabonis worth that much money? Great. All those conversations, valid. And you have great points in all of them. But ripping Sabonis to shreds after a game like this, instead of your fan favorite players who also made mistakes, tired of seeing that, man. I'm tired of seeing it. This episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by Rippling. If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promised to make work easier. But now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS, that's SAD, software as a disservice. That's why you need Rippling. Rippling is the unified platform from global HR, payroll, IT, and finance, all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. Rippling is great because it removes the bottlenecks and busy work that slows teams down. Everything from onboarding to payroll to IT access runs automatically and perfectly in sync. It's seriously is simple to use and gives companies one source of truth for their people, data, and everything that they touch. Whether you want to run your entire HR, IT, and finance operations as one, or just fill the gaps in your software stack, Rippling can do it all. And right now, you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/lockedonnba. Learn more at rippling.com/lockedonnba. That's rippling.com/lockedonnba for 6 months free. This episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Let's be honest, most of us can't even name all of our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. Between 401ks, savings, and investments, it's easy to lose track, and that can mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. It helped me organize my accounts, track my spending, and get a better handle on my investments, and I never even had to touch a spreadsheet. I love that I can review everything with my wife, Brittany. We can share our review and see our shared goals together and make better financial decisions as a family. Monarch's visual dashboards and smart tools make it so much easier to understand where my money is going and how to make it better work for me. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. Let me ask you a question. Who is the closer for the Sacramento Kings? The answer should be, or we've been told, or is supposed to be, DeMar DeRozan. He's been a phenomenal closer throughout his entire career. One of the most clutch players in the league throughout his entire career. And yet, the Sacramento Kings are 1-3. All 4 of these games have been close. All 4 of these games have been winnable. Doug Christie and many other players in that Kings locker room have labeled DeMar DeRozan as this team's closer. In these 4 games in the fourth quarter, DeMar DeRozan is averaging 2.7 points and is shooting 4 of 11 from the field. That's 36%. Meanwhile, Zach LaVine, who has been the leading scorer and the tip of the spear offensively for Sacramento this season, in the fourth quarter, through 4 games, is averaging 6.7 points, so 4 points more in the fourth quarter than DeRozan, on 10 of 25 shooting from the field, which is 40%. So, a couple questions I have here. 1, LaVine's taken 25 fourth quarter shots, DeRozan's taken 11. The Kings are 1-3. So one way to look at it is Zach LaVine shooting too much? Should the Sacramento Kings be getting the ball in DeRozan's hands more in the fourth quarter? I think that's up for debate. Zach LaVine is more of a 3-level scorer, and a lot of these shot attempts have been 3-point shots, and in more of the flow of the offense than just isolation buckets like DeMar likes to score. So I think there's a little bit of truth to that, though. I think you could get DeMar DeRozan more shots. But when DeMar has shot in the fourth quarter, it's not gone in. He has 0 points in 2 out of the 4 games in the fourth quarter so far this season. And again, all these games have been close. The other way to look at this, it is this. If DeMar DeRozan is not clearly being an asset to close games for you, and I am aware that DeMar DeRozan being on the court also helps others because the defense is worried about DeMar DeRozan, blah, 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 blah. Is this further proof that the Sacramento Kings may not need DeMar DeRozan as much as we initially thought that they did? Now, some people I think want to use this as more of an argument to move DeMar DeRozan to the bench with the second unit. I would argue whether DeMar DeRozan starts or comes off the bench, DeMar DeRozan will be on the floor in the fourth quarter, unless he's having just a horrible game. But even then, I would expect DeMar DeRozan to be on the floor. Like, that is his time. That is his bread and butter. He's made an entire career out of it. As much as we might want Keon Ellis or somebody else who has more of a defensive acumen out there, like DeMar DeRozan's, as long as he's in a Kings uniform and healthy, he's going to be on the floor in the fourth quarter. So I don't look at this as any kind of fuel towards an argument of move DeMar to the bench. He's still going to be closing the game. But I think it is fair to look at this and recognize this and reference this and go, well, Zach LaVine is actually really more the closer for this Kings team. Or at least he has been. And again, you could say, well, they're 1-3, so maybe it's not working at Zach LaVine as the closer, and they should emphasize DeMar DeRozan more. But if DeMar is not going, this is supposed to be DeMar's biggest strength. This is supposed to be the main thing that he brings you in Sacramento. And you've had 4 close games. You've won 1 of them. And again, DeMar is averaging 2.7 points and shooting 36% from the field in the fourth quarter. You tell me. I would love to hear your thoughts. Is it a Zach LaVine thing? Is it a DeMar DeRozan thing? Is it both? Let me know. The Sacramento Kings play the Chicago Bulls tomorrow. Second game of this road trip. Play like this in Chicago. I don't care that it's the second night of a back-to-back. The Thunder played a road game last night and came in here and beat you without Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams. I don't care that it's the second night of a back-to-back. You showed me you can do it. You play like this with this close to a full game effort against Chicago, you won't have to worry about falling apart over the final 6 minutes because the game should be won. You will beat the Bulls if you play like this tomorrow. You will beat the Bulls. So do it. I don't want to hear anything about tired legs, second night of a back-to-back, unless the Sacramento Kings have sudden injuries to players, knock on wood. They should play like this tomorrow, and they should win tomorrow. Then we can worry about Milwaukee and Denver and some of the tougher games later on. But go get this Bulls game. You got to go and get this Bulls game. Second night of a back-to-back, don't care. Play the way you did tonight in Chicago. Get out of there with a victory. That's all it is. That's all it is. And of course, after that game, I'll be right back with you here on Locked On Kings for a post-game podcast. Want to hear your thoughts. Your thoughts on Sabonis, Levine versus DeRozan closing, Russ in the starting lineup, how the Kings played, Doug Christie, whatever you want to talk about, let's talk about it. Hit me up on Twitter at MattGeorgeSack@gmail.com. You can email me, MattGeorgeSports@gmail.com, or feel free to leave your thoughts in the YouTube comment section down below. Appreciate your support as always. Can't wait to have you join me on the next episode of Locked On Kings. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to the Locked On Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.